Let's talk.
Hi, I'm Lisa Todd. Welcome to this week's episode of End.formants. END.formants. You can find us on Facebook. This week we're going to talk about Lance Armstrong and the fact that he came out and said he's a doper, cheater, liar, thief, and everything else that goes along with it. Also, we're going to talk about why, when it snows in the UK, does the UK just shut down? We're going to talk a little bit about global warming. We're going to talk about the New York state gun laws. Welcome to End.formants. It's our world. Let's talk about it. Alright, so we had a few things to talk about this week on the show. First, there's an absent person. Can anybody guess who it is? Julie?
No, I can see Jenny. I can see you, Lisa.
Jenny?
Oh.
Who do you think?
I think it's me.
Jenny's missing. Jenny's missing. Okay.
But I can see her.
Yeah.
Oh,
So actually, it's Tina that's missing this week, and Tina had a friend that fell ill, and our prayers and wishes go out to and our energy goes out to good energy, positive energy goes out to her friend who our thoughts are there. So we had a few issues, like I said, that we're going to talk about this week, and the one that came back to the forefront of the news, and I think it was because he finally admitted his guilt and he's since done interviews, is Lance Armstrong, who was a 7-time Tour de France winner, and he admitted to doping. And did either of you see the interview that he had with Oprah, or any of the interviews?
No.
Not the interview with Oprah, no.
What did you see, Jenny?
I saw a few printed articles, but nothing that he actually said.
Okay, so did you see anything, Julie, about it?
I haven't actually seen any interview of him, but it's all over the Yahoo headlines.
It is.
I know what he's done.
Just so we're fair, it's all over the Google headlines. It's all over the Fox News. It's all over CNN. Let me tell you, on a personal note, he made a comment when people said to him, well, you know what? What about all those? Oprah said, Pete, you called people liars when they said to you, you're doping. And he said, yeah, and he called himself a bully. And he said that a bully is somebody that controls the narrative. And I thought, wow, I know a lot of bullies. And I'm really not trying to be funny, but it's true. But look at the extent that he went to. And it wasn't just, I don't think it was about just winning per se. I think it also had to do with the money, at being the best, at his own obvious ego, and then the gall when you're called on it to turn around and sue people for slander. I mean, Julie, what's your opinion about that?
Well, I have two things to say about that, really. Firstly, I think it tells us what people are capable of in terms of when they really want something and temptation is placed in their way, how will they react? And it's not like he started out, I don't know, obviously him, but he didn't necessarily start out to win the Tour de France 9 times or however many times it was.
He won 7 times. And let me just tell you that he did. He said, I knew I was going to win every single time. So he said that himself.
So, yeah, and he's saying that from his vantage point of now, but when somebody first decides to do it for the first time, it's like a slippery slope, isn't it? And so temptation is put in their way, and they take it, and then maybe it comes up again, and they're like, oh, well, I got away with it that time, so I'll do it again. And then maybe it becomes bigger and bigger, and it becomes so big that you can't control it anymore. And
he did say that. He honestly did say that the situation became bigger than him.
Well, exactly, and this is what I've been thinking. If somebody said to me, Julia, you can be a rock star, I'll give you a record contract and you'll get all the benefits of being a rock star, but you'll have to tell a small lie and you'll have to cheat these few people. Would I do it? Of course, I'm like, no, of course not. But how do I know? Maybe in that situation, I would perhaps justify that. Then maybe a year later, somebody's like, okay, now I want you to tell a big lie and cheat a little bit more, and you'll get even more benefits. People will think you're amazing. You get all this money and fame and acknowledgement. Not that that's necessarily what I want in life, but I'm just explaining that when temptation is put in our path, perhaps it just seems like a small thing to start with, and then it slowly escalates. I don't think anyone ever sets out to do this huge thing. But of course, from our vantage point now, we look back and we're like, oh, what a terrible person. He bullied these people, he cheated, he lied, he took all these drugs and won 7 times. But I think we have to remember that we're looking at it from how it is now, what it's become.
Okay, and I want Jenny to jump in on this, but I want to say this. I want it to be 100% clear. From the beginning, he said he knew he was going to win. So he already knew that, once he started cycling, just, to cycle, that wasn't an issue. When money and positions became available, that's when he started doping, which we'll explain doping in a minute for those people that don't know, and the extent that they went through, and not just Lance Armstrong, but other people as well. So Jenny, what do you know about this? What's your feelings about that as a personal point of view, and as like Lance Armstrong? And would you, in fact, do you think you'd tell an untruth to get something that you want?
I don't think I would now, no. Would I when I was younger and a lot more anxious to get somewhere? I'd like to say no, but I think the honest answer is yeah, I might have. It's one of those things where integrity is very important, but it's so easy to see how you might say, like Julie said, you might say, it's just a little lie.
Right.
And if it starts out as just a little bitty thing, and then it just grows and grows and grows,
okay, but
so easily getting caught.
Okay, but I want us to understand one thing. This was about cheating. Now, cheating is different than lying. Okay?
Absolutely.
And he also explained the betrayal that he did to people that will no longer speak to him again. So he talked about all of that, and he talked about, the only time I saw him get emotional was when he told his son, don't defend me anymore, because his son was saying those are lies about my dad because, of course, Lance Armstrong. And it is peculiar that when people become, and I've seen this with a lot of people, but people, when they get on the defensive, especially if they're guilty, they become the aggressor. And that's exactly what
they go into survival, don't they?
It is, but it's a different type of survival. There's cannibalism, which is basically what some people will do, and then there's people that don't have that greed per se, and they just do enough so that they survive. So there's a degree in that as well. Wouldn't you say? Wouldn't you say that? But this wasn't this turned into a lie. It was cheating. When he doped and just, I don't know if you know, I don't know if the viewers know, but doping, what they did, what he said was, there was extra testosterone, hormones, EPO, which is something that our own body secretes, and as it goes through the blood, it gives us energy. So when you're putting that back in you, it's giving you more energy. But it wasn't until the year 2000, that they actually had a test that would say about the EPOs. So, and that's why he wasn't really gonna try to fight this anymore, because it's almost per se like a DNA test, like in the sense that, you're pretty sure that's the person, you're pretty sure that person cheated. And also, the saving of his own blood, and then having it transferred to hotels and stuff where, on private planes. That would go to these athletes. And now the guy has lost his 7 titles. And he did, in my opinion, as well as the other dopers, a lot falls on Lance Armstrong because he was the captain of his team. He was supposed to be the best cyclist. He's a survivor of cancer, and then still an excellent cyclist. And all of that integrity, I believe, like Julie says, has really gone to shit. And so he's lost his sponsorship. And I don't believe this guy would have came clean had the cycling society, which, USADA, USADA, had they, not have gone forward and what about, the culture of that as well? What about the fact that, because we do, Oprah said, and, not that I'm a huge fan of Oprah, but, she said, listen, the public likes to see the people's struggles to make it to the top, but then they love to see people's fall from the top. What do you say about that culture, Jenny?
Say there's a lot of truth to that too, which is not a pretty thing to say, but it's true.
It's definitely true, isn't it? We see that. Not so much to that extreme. Is that culture in your country, Julie? Is that is that a precedence in your country? Because it seems to be something that we enjoy here.
Well, that was going to be my second point. That, as you were saying, your president has been inaugurated. Is that the right word?
Inaugurate. Yeah.
Yeah, and the media is focusing on Lance Armstrong at the moment, And the thing is, there are so many other people in the world who are doing things that are absolutely horrendous that we never hear about. You know, when's the last time the media spoke about what Robert Mugabe's up to in Zimbabwe at the moment? And, you know, all these other dictators that are doing really terrible things, killing people, and their people are starving to death, you know, while these people live in luxury. Then it seems like the media grabs hold of this one person who's done, he's betrayed his sport and his fans, and he's led a lot of people down, and I agree with that. But at the end of the day, it's not that important compared to what else is happening in the world, but we focus on that one personality. It's so easy to drag him down. It's so clear, he's there, he's available, the evidence is there, and he's going on Oprah and bearing his soul, and it's just become this huge media circus. And I think we live in such a point and laugh culture with all these reality TV shows, and my favourite, Jerry Springer, you know how
Hang on a second, because Jenny has had her hand up for a minute there. So Jenny, what were you gonna say?
Well, I was going to both agree with Julie, but also point out that the difference between those dictators and Lance Armstrong, aside from the fact that they're also totally another culture, not really our problem, the real difference is that they never pretended to be good people. They just happened to be people in power. Lance Armstrong gave everybody who believed in him the impression that he was, you know, a hero, somebody amazing and wonderful, somebody who you could look up to. And while I definitely give him props for finally admitting that, you know, he is not what we had hoped for, what we had believed.
What he led us, Jenny, what he led us to believe. You know, it was what he led us to believe. And not that I mean to interrupt, but Tina had sent some messages, and Tina said exactly the same thing that you're saying. So I want to be Tina's voice on things that she did mention. So go ahead, Jenny. I'm sorry.
That's but my point was that we believed in him, and then he fell. And there are two human reactions to that. And one is incredible disappointment, personal hurt. The other is to laugh and enjoy his fall and you know, really get some sort of sick pleasure out of it. And both reactions are equally understandable and equally human, but one of them is a lot nastier than the other, and we all seem to be jumping on the nastier one, at least in this particular case. And I think that's cultural. I mean,
well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I got it. I'm not laughing. And I don't see people laughing. I see people in rage. And you know what? But you know what, Jenny? With good reason, because here it is. Okay, here it is. What about those cyclists that trained and worked hard? I mean, we talked about sports before on the show. What about those athletes? We talked about this issue, but there wasn't the result. Now, what about now? What about second place? What about the fact that he's not first place anymore? Is the second place? I don't even know those people's names, and I don't believe you guys do either, or the majority of people do. I mean, it's really more to it. It's not just his decline. It is the collateral damage as well, and the fact that, you know what, that's the way our society, in my opinion, and it's a horrible thing to say because I'd like to have better faith, and to say, and Julie, I'll be quite blunt with you as far as this. I'm sorry for the dictatorship in the other countries, but the American country here is fucked up as it is, and we need help. So I don't think that we're in a position to go and make peace in another country when our country itself is so not at peace. But that's a whole other issue, you know. And Lance Armstrong is not the biggest thing in my news, I don't even have a bicycle. But the idea that's, I mean, it's comparable in my opinion to like the Bernie Madoffs, with the exception that those people that were betrayed got to keep their money. Nike got to keep their money. You know, they're supposed to get some of that endorsement money back, but they still made money. But it's almost like that. A liar, a cheat, a thief.
Yeah, but why? You could look at it in a different way, in a positive way, that he's been exposed, and what the moral of the story is that cheating and lying isn't going to benefit you, and you're probably going to get caught eventually. We had a scandal a few years ago called the MP expenses scandal, where the MPs...
Okay, so I need you to explain to the American public MP, please.
Oh, okay. Members of Parliament.
Thank you.
So I suppose the people who will be in your Senate, maybe?
Well, see, MP is military police to us.
Okay.
So that's why I wanted you to please explain so that people can understand.
Yeah. Okay, so the people in Parliament, the people who are supposed to be running the country, were caught putting things on their expenses.
I remember. Go ahead.
Like having their back garden, you know, refurbished and things like that. And you know, one of the female members of Parliament's husband had been ordering porn, apparently.
I remember seeing that on the news, yeah.
Yeah, so the newspapers went absolutely bonkers about it, as you can imagine. But what I really got from it, because you know there are a lot of people who have conspiracy theories about how politicians can get away with anything, and they're all being run by the Bohemian Grove and Bilderberg people. And I was like, well, if the media has the power to expose those MPs from doing that, then surely we can take them back. But you can't get away with stuff. You know, we do have the freedom of speech. And generally, I don't like the media, especially the tabloid newspapers, but at least they're prepared to pull up politicians on things like that. You know, so maybe the moral of the story isn't that we should get angry with Lance Armstrong or people who are cheating, but we can actually say, well, look, if you do that, then we live in a sort of society where people will expose you, and then you'll have to be accountable for what you've done. Because that's the kind of society that we live in. Everyone's on TV now.
And everybody has iPhones or some sort of mobile device that they can take. Jenny, do you have a comment about any of that, or would you like to move on to the next topic?
Oh, well, our politicians also are incredibly loose with their expense accounts. I mean, not so much in the last couple of years because the nation's broke, but in the boom times, I mean, politicians were just helping themselves to all kinds of extra benefits, and
absolutely, I remember that as well, and I still think they are.
Oh, they are. They're not quite as flagrant as they used to be, mostly because they know that people are watching more carefully because the nation's broke. But you know, the more boom times that we're having, the more flagrant they are about abusing their things, and the less the people care. And you know, to most politicians, that's just the way things are done, and they don't even see it as cheating. And I don't know if that's true in your country, but you know, here in our country, the political culture says that's part of the perks. That's what.
Okay, Jenny, I got a problem with what you said, and my problem is this: I don't think it's just the politicians. I think it's a way in our culture anymore. And I gotta be honest, you know, I was guilty of that. I was guilty of that until I grew up and found a conscience and a guide for me to live by. But I did work a job, and I did steal from that job. And I think it's like the person that says, "Oh, well, let me get these couple rolls of toilet paper and the salt shaker and this and that because I've worked overtime today and I don't have time to stop at the store." I mean, I think it's not just, I think the politicians just are able to get more of something. But it's all relative to what somebody feels it I'm entitled to and what they can get their hands on. Don't you think that that's the truth?
I was thinking that when you were speaking as well, Jenny, that I think everybody feels that they have the right to certain perks of the job. It's a saying, isn't it? It's perks of the job. And I would say everyone's at least stolen a paperclip, from their job. And maybe we're all guilty to a certain extent, and I have been arrested. Yeah, I know what you mean, though. I mean, I think everyone has done that, and it's not just politicians. It starts from schools, probably, and parents, and so there needs to be a whole shake-up. So I suppose in a way it's good that people are being exposed.
I think that it's definitely part of our culture, and I mean it's very sad because I don't see it getting any better. I wanted to also talk about Jenny. Were you gonna say something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was.
Okay.
I say that for some people, and for some jobs more than others, it can be difficult to understand what's a genuine perk of the job and what's not okay. Like, take, for example, when I worked at a movie theater as a teen, we were allowed to have popcorn, all the popcorn we wanted for free, as long as we used a special free box instead of the tubs they sold. But we were not allowed to have soda. And we were allowed to have a hot dog only if it didn't sell. And so, to me, those rules were pretty darn clear. But to one of my coworkers, he was in charge of putting hot dogs on the grill. So just before we closed for the evening, he would put an extra 5 or 6 hot dogs on the grill, and then say, "Oh, they didn't sell."
Okay, so well now wait a minute, because we're kind of getting off track here. I got a question for you. Jenny, did you eat any of the hot dogs that the guy put on the grill and said didn't sell?
No, I wasn't offered one.
Okay.
Would
but
I have if I had been offered? Yes, but no, I was not offered one. So
okay.
Anyway, the point being that those hot dogs to him were fair game, but according to the rules, they were not. And I didn't think. To me, it was pretty darn clear that he was stepping over the line. But in his mind, he honestly thought he was entitled.
Right. Okay. Well, but right. Okay. And that's what, and we all seem to agree that now. See, Julie, my only problem with what you said was everybody. You use the term everybody, and I believe in miracles. Okay, and I don't believe everybody is going to do the wrong thing. Jenny realized I could have this, and this at the job, and I'm not going to have any more because I get that. I would have put a fucking hot dog on the grill and made it myself. Not taken. So there's a difference. But that being said, I also know that I would have been stealing according to the job. Okay? Now, the thing is, could I have gone to sleep that night without losing any sleep? Absolutely. I don't know if I could have. You know what? I'm going to be when I stole from that job years ago, to be honest, I slept sound too. So, I mean, and I'm not proud of that. I never got caught. So it's not like, I'm trying any kind of amends or anything here. I never got caught, but I know what I did. and I know it was wrong. Now, I'd like to think I wouldn't do that again. I haven't since worked with money because, you know what, I don't want to put myself in a situation like that, and I also don't want to work with money. But, you know, the last job that I worked at, did I take things home from work? No. I took my meal home, which I was allowed to take home, and an extra meal if somebody gave it to me. I didn't take toilet paper if I didn't have any toilet paper at home. You know what I'm saying? I stopped and got toilet paper. I grew out of it. Some people...
We can always justify it, can't we, to ourselves? And we need to in order to stay sane and to remain surviving. And I suppose that's just what Lance Armstrong was doing and the politicians are doing at the other extreme. You know, they are stealing or cheating and lying, and they have their way of justifying it, and then they can speak soundly or not, depending on whether their own personal integrity is broken. I suppose it comes down to whether you feel personally that it's a justifiable thing to do. And so perhaps somebody stealing a paperclip or some stationery from work says, well, it's fine, they're making money, it's not a problem, but maybe the company would see that as stealing, but maybe other companies wouldn't see that as stealing. So I guess it's how you justify it yourself. You have to be your own conscience, I think, and then society will pull you up on it if it's a problem.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go on to the next topic if we could. What about New York State? The Governor Cuomo. He's got this new ban on but the older guns are grandfathered in. But I mean I was looking at the website and unfortunately I really don't know one gun from another, but all the semi-automatics, ones with special triggers, and the magazines, so the amount of rounds that you can carry has been minimal. To me, if I'm honest, not minimal enough, because I don't care. I wish we didn't have any guns here. I'd love to see them all gone. I don't think we have the same worries that we did when the Bill of Rights was written, but I do have to give Governor Cuomo props because I live in New York State. There's an awful lot of crime. We had spoken before about how every time I have the news on, I'm always hearing about somebody getting shot. Not in my area, thankfully, but in the state. So Governor Cuomo's really come and you know, has what I hope the other states will do and follow this new gun law, the restriction of every 5 years you have to be rechecked for mental illness. My question is this. We can all lose our temper. We just talked about, you know, how imperfect we all are, how flawed we are. And, you know, again, I'd like to think I've grown up because I know that I used to have a really bad temper. And when I would lose my cool in a minute. You know, if somebody honked at me because I didn't make that light as soon as it changed, it just really had a way of affecting me. And I guess, you know, if you want to, you can learn how to cope and you grow and learn to accept that there are things you cannot change. But that being said, I appreciate what Cuomo's doing, but I don't see where that really is gonna solve a lot of the problem. I think it will solve some of the problem, but not a lot of the problem, because when somebody loses their cool, it might not be something that showed up. It might be somebody that just lost their temper. What's your feeling, Jenny? Because I know that where you are in the DC area at least, there's a lot of crime.
There is. I honestly can't tell you what is going to happen, but Cuomo's trying something, and that's important. The thing that gets me about it is that it's so very confusing that I read 3 different articles, and they all reported 3 different sets, slightly different sets of what the new rules are, and it's so confusing that even the media isn't getting it right. And like, for example, one of the reports that I read said that 10-round magazines that you already own are grandfathered in, but you're only allowed to load 7 shots in them. Like, people are really going to listen. But another one said, oh, if you have a 10-round magazine, you're required to sell it to someone out of state or turn it in. And it's like, well, which is it? It can't be both. It's one or the other, but which is it? And even the media doesn't know. And that strikes me as a problem, just the fact that nobody really knows. Because if it's not even clear what the law is, how are people supposed to abide by it?
Well, I do believe that it is 7. News stories.
You can't find new magazines.
That's correct.
7 rounds. But the question is, the 10-round magazine you already have.
That's grandfathered in. Grandfathered in.
That's what one report said, but a different report said differently. Which is it?
I live in New York, and I only know about that it's grandfathered in. I actually read where they don't want you selling, and they're not requiring you to sell or get rid of the grandfathered in magazines and weapons. So I do think it's a step in the right direction. But Julie, have you heard anything about this? I know that you don't really deal with this in your country, but
yeah, but I do have an opinion.
Good, please.
Well, I don't like the thought of anybody having guns in America either, even if it's none of my business. I don't think it's a very good idea, and I don't, as we've discussed before, I don't even understand why people get so aggressive and defensive about the right to bear arms. And I know that's a separate issue, and we won't go into that right now. But I think whatever steps are taken to restrict people from buying guns and having ammunition is a great start. And who knows what's going to happen after that? Maybe they can review it in 5 years' time, and there'll be even stricter laws. So it's not like this is the only time it's ever going to change. Maybe this is the beginning of the evolution of slowly ridding America of guns, and that would be amazing. Maybe in 100 years' time, there'll be no more guns. I'm probably very naive to think that. But
no, it has nothing to do with being. It has nothing to do with being naive. It has to do with being ideal, and being idealistic. So, I think in 100 years' time, before that happens, we will have blown ourselves to bits at our own hands. That's what I think. And I'm not joking. But here's the thing. You said something that first of all, you are invited to speak your mind, especially because we're asking your opinion. So it's not that it's none of your business. And I didn't mean that the other countries that doesn't bother me as far as what's going on, where there's bad people, which is really what this show seems to really kind of be about, is basically what it's turning out to be and unfolding is the human nature of people. And that's from Lance Armstrong to President Obama to a waitress to just everyday people. So we're really talking about human nature. You were gonna say something. Go ahead, Julie.
I don't think there are inherently bad people at all. Nobody, we're all just human beings and we're products of our
Now you're
upbringing
naive.
and our culture.
But
I really,
go
I
ahead.
really don't think that there are inherently bad people. There are people who do really bad things, really awful things, but they've been brought up and educated in a certain way and they've suffered and this is the expression of their suffering.
I disagree. I disagree. I disagree. Jenny, you've been quiet for a minute there. Do you have anything to say about this?
Basically, yeah. I happen to agree with Julie. People are brought up a certain way, and unless they sit down and consciously think through and reevaluate, they are going to continue to behave the way they were taught to behave, the way they were allowed to behave as a child.
I disagree. So I'm glad you said that because here's the thing. I definitely do believe that there's bad people. I believe that there's evil. Now, being that I believe in God as Jesus Christ, the Son of God, that God, and I know clearly that we have different beliefs. I know that that Jenny does have a belief, and I know that Julie, you have a belief, not, but they're all three different beliefs. So I believe in the God that also says there's evil in this world too. I believe in hell just like I believe in heaven. So I believe in good, but I also believe in evil. And I do believe that there's bad people in this world. And I do believe you can have, because you can't explain it. There have been siblings brought up in the same exact situation. There have been people that have been worse than others. And there have been people that have behaved badly and have had it all and have done horrific things. So I'm not convinced by what both of you are saying. I think there are people born evil. And, you know, I'm willing to debate that with any of you. Okay, so Jenny has her hand up.
Well, okay, now you're talking almost two different things. I do agree that there are people who are born evil, or at least who have chosen to become evil, but other than those people...
Okay, well, wait a minute, because
I was talking about a different group of people who...
But hang on,
they are doing
but
good,
hang on, I'll tell Jenny, just hang on, only because what you said are two different things. I'm not talking about somebody with the choice. I'm talking about somebody that's born, something is wrong. So it's not that they choose it, because that's two different things, what you just said. I'm talking about born evil. Something is broken. So
yeah, there are people like that, yes.
Okay.
I do not deny that at all. But I wasn't talking about those individuals when I made my previous statement.
Okay.
I was talking about people, that the previous statement was about certain groups of people who think they are being good people, or at least normal behaving people, but they're not doing good things, but they think they are. You know, and I think that's a product of the way you're brought up. Like, for example, you have a rich person, say, Baby Doc from Haiti. He was deposed when he was a teenager, or early 20s maybe. I can't remember exactly how old he was. He was a young kid, and when he got control of a country, what did he do with his country? He partied. Now, any 18, 19-year-old is out there partying. He just happened to be in charge of a country, and he happened to be very rich. Did he think he was doing evil? No. He thought he was a normal teenager boy, and he probably would have been if he hadn't been in charge of a country. But he was a pretty terrible dictator, and his country kicked him out because he was that horrible. But, you know, that in his mind, he was just a teenage boy. You see what I'm saying? He wasn't a purposely bad guy. He did bad things, though.
Yeah, I really wasn't talking about choice per se. I wasn't talking about perception either. I was really talking about evil, by the fact that people are born that way. So,
yes, there are.
but somebody had made a comment earlier, that there that was that made me say, wait a minute, I believe in evil people, and I think it was Julie that said, I don't believe that anybody is inherently evil, and I gotta disagree. I have to disagree with that. But so that's what I was saying to that. But you're right, Jenny. People, I don't think an 18-year-old kid, but here, I'm unfamiliar with that culture, so I don't know how grown up that 18 years old is in that culture. In this culture, I don't think you're grown up until you're in your 30s. You know what I'm saying? But that's because you weren't taught any better. I understand that. And that's the fault of the home. But what do you have to say about that, Julie?
Well, there are definitely people who are genetically psychopaths and sociopaths, and that's the way they are. And evolution has selected them for various reasons, probably because they make good leaders and this kind of thing. So their genes have remained in the gene pool and they've been passed on.
That's only in your country. We don't fuck our brothers and sisters here.
Oh yeah.
Well, we might, but we do it in West Virginia.
That's better.
Or Mississippi, as Tina would say. Anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead.
But in terms of whether there are inherently evil people, first of all, we need to define the term evil, because good and bad are subjective to a culture. There are certain people in the Middle East who would say that it's immoral to be homosexual, and they would say that it's perfectly moral to stone somebody to death, whereas to me it's the opposite way around. So so I suppose we could say that the way that they carry on in Saudi Arabia is evil, but it's quite a slippery, intangible term that we need to define. So there's no good and bad. There's what works and what doesn't work, I would say. And secondly, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to do some really bad things today because I'm really evil. We tend to get up in the morning. Even these terrible dictators I don't know them, obviously, but I wouldn't imagine that they get up and say, I'm going to do evil today, because anything like that would make them suffer. Any anger, any feelings like that make the person who's doing that feel really...
I think you got that a bit backwards. No, I think it's because they're evil, miserable SOBs that the only way that they feel good is by making others suffer.
Yeah, I agree with that as well.
And that's a power thing. But I have to disagree with you. But continue, because I cut you off, Julie. So I'm sorry. Please.
That's okay. So remember when you used to get angry quite easily when you were in a traffic jam and somebody would honk you, and you'd get angry very quickly, and that was really painful for you, I would imagine, and you probably didn't want to feel like that if you ever took the time to think about it, which you probably didn't, because you were just reacting. Stimulus response is autopilot. And it's the same for people everywhere. It's like being in the film The Matrix. Nobody realizes that they're actually in that suffering. And then, so there's, like you say, in an attempt to try to make themselves feel better and more powerful, because they feel like there's something missing inside of them, they try to do things to puff up their own ego, perhaps by harming others. But they don't do it, I don't think, to harm others per se. They do it to make themselves feel better, but it actually actually makes themselves feel much worse, because the best feeling in the world is feeling loving towards other people and connected with other people. So it's like it's counterintuitive to them, I would say. It just breeds more and more pain in the world. So I don't think that they're doing it on purpose, and there's no inherently badness in them.
So the word of the week here is inherently. But I wanted to say this. When you were saying, I don't think you wanted that you didn't feel very good when you were angry like that. Well, I went to therapy not because I would lose it in a traffic jam per se, but because I you have to have you have to have more patience. You have to learn. I think you have to learn that, and I was just telling an old client this, and he's a kid who's no longer a kid anymore, and we still keep in touch. And I said, and it took me a long time to learn this, so I'm hoping that he received it as a gift and got it 20 years earlier than I finally got it. But once you realize that there's really only so much you have control over, you really do live a more peaceful and even more of a controlled life, because you don't have control over everything. And when you realize, I don't have control over that, and I think it does come with growing. We all have our own mistakes that we have to make to build what my friend has a perfect analogy of the mosaic of your life. Okay? And the mosaic of my life is my falls, my picking up, my desperation, my determination, moments that we all have, that I'd like to think that we all have, that makes us who we are in our lives. But that being said, we all seem to agree that whether we agree on evil or not, true evil or not, we agree that we need to treat each other better, so that we can feel something towards somebody. And if we do feel connected, then we know when we're harming somebody, like, I remember one time I was speeding, or, but I was taking a dog to the vet because my dog was bleeding profusely. And I thought, these people think that I must be drunk or I'm a danger, but I'm trying. So I consciously, made an effort to remember, before I judge somebody either driving too slow in front of me or driving like a mad person, you don't know what's going on in their car. You don't know what news they just got. But, I don't know when we get to that step. I think we have to be humble, and if we think we know it all, then we'll never be open to receive more information. And my feeling is when I stop growing, it should be over for me, because I'm always a work in progress, and hopefully at the end of it all, a very good work in progress that, my family will be able to say, oh, my aunt, or my friends, this is the difference she made. She left the world a better place. And it's my responsibility, in my opinion, to leave the world a better place,
And also, don't forget that you might die. You're not necessarily going to live until you're 80. I don't want you to die, obviously, before that, but you have to remember that this could be your last day. And would you be proud to leave the earth as you are now, and that gives it control. You don't even really have any control over your mood. So you just have to do the best you can, I think, and to look after other people as much as you can.
You know, you made a very good point, Julie, because you don't have control over your mood. However, you do have control over how you handle it.
Yeah, definitely. It's up to you. Once it's in you, then you can take action. But you don't know what mood you'll wake up in tomorrow morning. You know, I'll probably wake up tomorrow morning feeling grumpy because it's cold here. And then it's up to me to try to cheer myself up. You know, I have the power to take responsibility, to not be a victim of the weather, and to do something about it. You know, I don't want to die miserable.
Jenny, did you have a comment to say about the no?
Not particularly, just agreement with everybody else that the important thing is to do something that makes the world a better place.
I agree with that. So, Julie, you brought up the weather. And you know, I'm very blessed because I have friends that are in the UK, and it's nice that I can call people my friends, you know, with the technology that's out there.
Yeah.
So I've gotten a few emails and a few photos of the big snowstorm in the UK. In the meantime, I think it snowed more in the Midlands, where I got my photos from, than where you are in the southern part of the country. But you got snow, so, and the city, I mean, not just the city, with the exception of northern Scotland, it seems like the rest of the UK kind of comes to a halt.
It really does.
Why?
I don't know.
Because it does snow. It does snow there.
Yeah, we're not prepared for it. We don't have the infrastructure. I suppose we don't regularly and consistently get the amount of snow that we have had over the last few years. And so the airports close down, the roads stay with snow on them, and then because it's very cold, they become very icy. I had to cancel my plans for today. I was going to go out and see a friend, but we decided to speak on Skype instead because it's dangerous to drive. And I just wondered how you cope in New York.
Well, let me tell you how we cope. We have a preventative that we put down first when we know there's a storm coming. And you know what? We tend to know, and we are very good at putting down something that'll help melt the snow so that it won't become black ice or you know, patches of ice. And we put down salt because that's good for traction. It also helps. I mean, we have trucks that they drive and they drop you know, salt rocks.
Yeah.
You don't have that?
Yeah, we do. This is the thing I don't understand. We have, they call them gritters.
I'm sorry, say again?
Gritters. Gritter.
Gritters. Okay.
So they drop the salt that you're talking about on the road before the snow comes, and then they don't come back. We don't have any snow plows. I think that's the problem. We don't have, once it started to settle on the grit because it's so heavy that the grit doesn't melt it, then it just stays there. We don't seem to have anything to get rid of it, and then it just turns to ice.
Okay.
Well, particularly bad on the pavement.
That's a hard. First of all, I've been, and I want Jenny to speak only because Jenny gets less snow than I do. Okay, you know, I'm on a mountain, so I've got the elevation, and I'm further north. But Jenny gets the snow that would be equivalent to the UK, and I want Jenny to speak for a minute, but here I just gotta say this: we have snow plows that I give them I give them a lot of credit because they're always out there when they're always trying to make the roads safer. We could never be shut down like that. And where Jenny lives, they could never be. She lives not far from the Pentagon. They can never be shut down like that. So, Jenny, let's talk about this because you don't have that issue and you get hit by some snow.
Well, actually, we used to have that issue in the 70s. I am old enough to remember that. But I remember when we were younger, and the infrastructure just wasn't there, like Julie's talking about now, and they had one snowplow for the whole city. I mean, or it seemed that way. I mean, I exaggerate, but it seemed that way. And then they doubled the snowplows to 2 in the 80s, and that was a little better. And
twice as good.
Yeah, twice as good. But nowadays, what they did here is that they decided that in addition to the plows owned by the city, they would open it up to private plowing, and anybody who owned the equipment could get out there and plow and get paid for their time and their effort and their gas and their wear and tear. And it's incredibly lucrative. I know this because my brother actually, as soon as the snow starts falling, he starts cheering because he's got himself a snowplow. And I can tell you that his pocketbook is a hell of a lot fatter after even the smallest snow. And when on the rare occasion when we get a big snowstorm, he's like, "Whoa, I'm rich." But the thing that made a huge difference was not the city buying more snowplows and parking them. It was the city saying, "Hey, we'll pay you to be a good citizen and get out there and plow." And that's what really worked for us. And like Lisa said, we have the Pentagon, we have Congress, we have all kinds of things that really hurts the nation if we shut down, particularly the Pentagon. So
yeah, we can't shut down. But you know what I was gonna say? I've been over in the UK, like I said it several times, and this is the truth, Jenny. Every single time I've gone over there, you always get the rain, and you always get the little bit of mist. I mean, the weather in Scotland certainly is consistent to what they say. It's the truth. It's very. It could snow, rain, sun in one day, and I found and I made a comment about this a few times. I was always slipping on the sidewalks there. So when my friend sent me that picture, the first picture I got, I thought to myself, holy shit, I'd be on my ass. Because I could, they have a lot of cobblestone, in Birmingham, a lot of cobblestone in Edinburgh. And, with no real grip. It's not like a sidewalk. It's almost got like it's not like a sidewalk finish like we're accustomed to here. It almost has like a shine to it. And when I'm serious, and when it gets, no lie, I was like sliding all over the place, and I thought to myself, imagine how it's got to be when it's icy. So I wouldn't want to go out. Listen, when I say, or you get Facebook things from me that say, I'm going to stay in for the next few days, that's 6 fucking inches of snow. That's legitimate. That's legit. I'm on a mountain. But I guarantee you, if I shovel my way out of my driveway, my roads are clear. So again, I gotta give props. I think that, can I say something? Though I don't know much about climate change, from what I've gathered, and I know a lot of people agree with you, Jenny, is that you're blaming the climate change on like the oil companies drudging up um, into the earth. Is that what I'm getting from what you're saying?
That isn't all of it, but that is a very, very large part of it. The oil that we are burning is releasing carbon dioxide into the atmosphere that wasn't there before because it was buried under the ground. And the carbon dioxide is up in the atmosphere, and it's kind of like you play soccer or football for you. You both understand that game, right?
Right.
Well, so imagine that you
Of course, we're thinking two different games. We're thinking two different sports here. But go ahead.
Football for her, soccer for you.
Okay. Okay.
So imagine you've got this goal, this net goal like they have in the game.
Right.
And before global warming started, you had one guard standing there, and as sunlight came down, the one guard would block some of the things and some of the balls that came through, with balls being, of course, the sunlight. But and some would get through. But now with global warming, you have 2,000 goalies standing in front of that thing. Now, how many balls do you think are going to get through with 2,000 goalies standing in front of the net?
Depends if England are playing or not, really. Probably not many.
Well, anyway, now the point is, the sunlight that comes in can't get out again. And so what it's doing is it's going up to the atmosphere, bouncing back down, going up and bouncing back down, and that is creating a lot of climate change because every time it comes back down, we get a little bit warmer, and the earth responds and things happen. And one of the things that is happening is that our weather patterns are changing, and we aren't getting as much rain as we used to in certain parts of this country. Now, other parts of the country are getting more rain, of course, but there are parts of this country that are seriously suffering from drought that never had drought before, and the reason why is because there are too many goalies up there.
Well, okay, I gotta disagree with that, but Julie, please, would you comment about the global warming and everything, please?
Yeah, well, as far as I am aware, there's absolutely loads and loads of evidence to say that there is human-induced climate change happening at the moment. And I don't understand why anybody would want to deny that, really. It just seems crazy, because we need to accept that that's the truth and then do something about it. And even if humans haven't caused that, really, it doesn't matter. The fact is, we need to do something to stop the world from warming up, because it's going to be a disaster. It's going to be like Waterworld, the Kevin Costner film, quite soon. I mean, you're worried about us blowing ourselves up, but actually, I'd say that more urgently, we need to start thinking about stopping carbon emissions, because we're going to get much more extreme weather, like these terrible hurricanes that you've been experiencing in America, the drought. We've been having a lot more snow than normal. And scientists are saying it's due to climate change. Whether that's human-induced or not, I suppose it doesn't really matter, but we need to find out what we can do about it and start doing something about it.
Well, let me say this. I do think that we're responsible for certain things. Obviously, we had that horrific spill in the Gulf of Mexico by your guys, Julie. It was by your guys. Anyway, and I'm not sure about drudging up our Earth. That being said, I'm all for drudging up the Earth to find artifacts. Okay, so I've been to Alaska. I'm very blessed. I've been to Alaska. I've seen the glaciers, because from the pictures from 10 years before I went to when I went 5-6 years ago, they are they are dissolving. They're diminishing. They're going away. I know that the UK, I think it was the year before last that you guys had one of the worst winters, if not the worst winter you've ever experienced there. But isn't it, I mean, to me, yeah, I think that, yeah, we caused damage to, and I don't mean to make that, to say that lightly, but I also don't mean to make such a big deal about it, because I'm still going to get in my car and drive, which isn't supposed, so I don't want to be a hypocrite. But
well, that's why we need to be educated, because I drive a car as well, and I have continued doing all the things. We need to, we're all responsible for the world that we live in, and we can't just keep on expecting scientists to come up with car engines that don't run on petrol. There must be things that we can all do. I don't know what they are, but surely me putting a few baked bean tin cans in the recycling isn't going to make that much of a big difference, but there must be something I can do. I don't know.
Well, wait a minute, because isn't that the same attitude? Like, that's almost like the same attitude of what we were talking about earlier, about doing the right thing. And listen, if 1 million people took 2 baked bean cans and threw them in the recycling bin as opposed to the rubbish, that would make a big difference, right?
Yeah, I agree. I do agree with you, and that's a small thing that we can all do. And I don't mean to make light of that, of course, but we basically need to stop using so much carbon, which comes from petrol and comes from heating our homes. And we need to find another way to do that, because we used to, like you were saying about not wanting to necessarily have your national health service because you're used to having a private room. And I understand that, and it's the same for us, isn't it? We don't want to give up our cars. We don't want to give up the heating in our homes, but we need to do something, because otherwise we're going to be up to here in water in 50 years and we won't have anything. So we need to re-educate people somehow. But I don't know what the answer is for that one.
Al Gore has all the answers on that one. Al Gore has all the answers on that one.
They're not listening to him, are they?
Well, here's the thing. You said it yourself. You said it yourself, Julie. And if I could be so blunt to say what I heard, okay, which only that doesn't make you responsible for your words. This is what I heard. What I heard is, I don't want to give up my car. I guess I could throw my baked bean cans in the recycling bin. Okay, good. I want to keep my house warm, but we got to do something. So, and unfortunately, that's kind of like the attitude, and it's my attitude too. I mean, yeah, I never use recycling, and I got a recycling bin. Now, I justify it by saying, I live where there's bears. Now, great, right now they're in hibernation, they are. But there's still wild animals, there's still deer, there's still foxes. My garbage can closed up has been open and gone through by animals. So, I honestly don't want to go out in the cold and retrieve my rubbish because I did the right thing. So, I'm justifying it, but it's a legitimate justification as well. So maybe there is something I could do now that I think about it. Maybe out on my deck I could put with a plastic bag I could throw in my stuff. Then now I think about it, I say it out loud. I say, well, wait a minute. My fence isn't going to stop wild animals from coming in. And it could be more dangerous for my pets. But the point is that we all want to see things changed. But what are we doing to change it besides talking about it? I know the first step is to talk about it, but beyond talking about it, then what? What is it?
We're very now focused, aren't we? We're not in the present moment, but we're very, how can I be as comfortable and as happy right now, not really worrying too much about the future, which has kept our species alive for, a million, 3 million years or whatever, because we've had to think like that, because we've always had to survive, same as animals or whatever. But now we have to start thinking in terms of centuries. What's it going to be like for our children? Not that any of us have children, but, we all have family who have children. And
I have a stepson.
Yeah, so, I have a niece and a nephew.
I have 7.
Wow.
And I'd like them to grow up in a world that still has reasonably comfortable climate, and they don't have to suffer with famine. And, yeah. But there already are people suffering with famine. Oh, I don't know what to do. I'm just getting,
It's very true. I wanted to, I did want to bring up another thing. I mean, I do have other things, but I wanted to bring up this thing that I found just very interesting. And I wanted to end the show on this note, only because we kind of started the show on this note. I was doing something, must have been Friday, and I happened to have on the Wendy Williams show, which is a talk show, not quite like Jerry Springer where she has hosts on that go through that, but still. Anyway, I'm walking past and I hear that she opens her show by saying that Britney Spears and her fiance Jason, and I don't know his last name, have broken up. And she wasn't joking. The reason for the breakup was he claimed she really needed more of like a dad figure. He had to watch what she ate, and he literally had to pick her up and throw her in the shower. And I thought to myself, and Wendy Williams and her audience were laughing and making light. And I thought, that's not funny. That to me sounds like somebody who's dealing with a depression, some sort of issue. Why is that funny? And as we know, Britney Spears has suffered some issues in the past. That's not funny. That's a mother of 2 children, and a young woman at that, who's already had issues, and here we are laughing. And then I watch something on Elvis Presley, and they were talking about Elvis's life, but again, they used the words, he was a loner. People made fun of him, before he became Elvis Presley. All right, and there was a big change in him, obviously, when his twin brother had passed, and that was early on. But he definitely, his mother was certainly depressed, and he definitely had that survivor's guilt, which we know, we call it that now, and issues that he didn't, and we didn't even address or would address publicly during that time. But because we started the show with Lance Armstrong and the stuff that he did, why is it funny that why do we want to see a young mother of 2 fail? What did she do? Why do we want to see Lindsay Lohan fail? What did they do to us? Why do we enjoy that? Why? And why do we say we got to pay attention to people who might need our help? when something like a violent massacre at an elementary school happens, but in the same breath, we could watch these public figures disintegrate and we find that to be funny. I mean, explain that to me. Julie, Jenny, explain it.
Well, personally, I don't find that. I really hate that part of our culture, the whole thing about celebrities. And, Britney Spears was a child star, sexualized, so much. And poor woman, probably really suffering. And I joked earlier that I'd love to be a rock star. But of course, whatever it is we think will make us happy, it's not that thing because those people are suffering just as much as we are. And I think the way that we relate to people, we said last week that a lot of the ways that we relate to people is quite detached. And that we have like a screen between us and we don't ever really feel compassion maybe. That's definitely a problem. I think the reason that people maybe want to see those people fail is because we used to live in very small groups and we had to all depend upon each other, and so we needed to punish anyone who would transgress in order to help the whole group survive. So it's probably just a natural thing, but I think it's terrible, and I really don't think that should be encouraged to have these TV shows where we're bringing people down. Horrible. We should be trying to work on ourselves and bring ourselves up rather than dragging other people down.
Absolutely. Jenny, Julie almost said that basically it was embedded in us almost. I mean, what's your feeling about that?
I don't think I could say it better. I don't think I could say anything different than Julie said, and she said it better.
Okay. Well, I think it's really sad, obviously, that it's almost like misery loves company, but it's even worse than that, in my opinion. We're very flawed as a race. I would say that, and
as species.
Yes, as a species, we're very flawed, and but you guys are pretty sane, so.
We're all loners, though. That's a problem, isn't it?
Well, I'm not really a loner. I'd like to think, in all honesty, that I have a healthy balance in my life. I do like my alone time, but I do make a point to be social. Certain nights of the week I go out and do things. Certain days of the week I go out and do things because I know that I need that balance. And I'd like to think that I found a good balance for myself at this point in time. That being said, I guess if I had to use the word, I have been depressed where I've been in bed, and thank God for my pets because I'm totally responsible pet owner, and they need to go out, they need to eat, they need affection, they need to play, they need me. Besides I have a loving family, don't get me wrong, but I would feel horrible, and I'm not suffering with that, and it's been a while. I think we go through things like that in life. That's just the cycle of life. But when I can't even imagine on my days when I felt like that, if the public cared enough to know and knew, and then kind of like made a joke out of it. I mean, that really to me says something about just how messed up and how we think that that's entertainment. I really thought, wow, that's really just that. I mean, I understand jokes. Don't get me wrong. I understand jokes. I understand roasts. I understand humor. That was making fun of somebody's misery, and I don't understand that, and I don't understand why we promote that in our culture, and I don't think it helps us to feel connected. Like, like you said, that feeling of detachment. And if we continue to do things like that, it definitely puts us in that caste, sectionized. It does. I don't think it's inbred in us, but I think ultimately, if we don't stop, it will be inbred in the generation that follows. I think that. So anyway, on that note, does anybody have anything to say? I enjoyed doing the show with the two of you. I almost said three of you because I was looking at my face too. But I especially enjoyed doing the show with you. But anyway.
We always thought you had schizophrenia. Now we know.
Yes, we do.
Well, ladies, I want to thank you for your time this week. Next week, I wanted to make the show a little lighter if we could. Want to call it maybe a casual week where I don't have to dress up. And
I like the fact that she carefully put in the up a second later. I don't know. Call it a nude show. We probably get a lot more videos.
Yeah. We probably would. But anyway, I thought maybe next week we'd talk about romance.
Aww.
I think we can manage that.
We haven't asked Jenny the question yet about,
Well, you know what? I was going to ask her, but before you came on the air, and I'm going to leave this on the show, before you came on the air, I know that V was nice enough to help Jenny with her router, and nice enough to give Jenny a snack, and nice enough to help Jenny with something else, because I was away for that bit. So I do know that V...
She brought me this.
I do know that V and Jenny are together this week, so I didn't have to ask.
Congratulations on another week of marriage.
Thank you very much.
And just for everybody, I wanted Tina, again, she apologizes. She couldn't be here for this week's show, but she sends her best. And she pretty much basically, we spoke for her in the words that she allowed us to use or sent us to use. And there were times when Jenny actually said the same words as Tina said, so I didn't bother repeating it. But just so that's out there. And want to wish everybody a good week, and we'll see you next week. Talking about romance next week, right?
Absolutely.
That would be depressing for me.
No, it won't be. Watch. You'll see.